Hey everyone, Frederick Harris here. Blasting Barriers Music Workshops, and this little quickie video on the staff for notation in music is a thought I was reminded of earlier today. And it's something that at some point in the past I had come to realize many years into my professional life as a musician. And it was a big aha moment that I had wished, I mean it was, hidden in plain sight in front of me the whole time. And though I went through the circuit that most musicians go through that are trained anyway in music theory, I went through that same route, and this was never said, this was never pointed out. This, like I say, was well into my professional life, following a formative life of, from 4 years old all the way through my childhood. And I never heard one instructor point this out about the staff, namely the grand staff. So there's remnants of other writing here. Just ignore that for the purposes of this video. Focus your attention here and in this gap area here, where I'm going to kind of like do a zoom in and just rewrite this part of it zoomed in, for making writing a little clearer and making my point. We don't know what to call any of that. A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, which is where we stop in terms of the letters that we use. We need something called clef signs in order to now animate the pitch aspect of this. There's more to the story, but the first thing we want to know is, what are the notes? What? So the clef signs are what designate one of these lines as a letter, from which relatively all the rest of the lines and spaces get letterized. The rest of those 7 letters that I just said get assigned based on which of these clef signs. And by the way, there are more in musical creation than just these 2 clef signs, treble clef and bass clef, respectively. But these are the default clef signs that we see, especially trans-musically. As I just mentioned, the staff is used to put in graphical form music all over the world. Keyboard music written out, with notes to represent what both hands are doing, is written on what's called a grand staff. And the grand staff is oriented just the way I just explained the notes are to every staff. It's from low to high. Well, now the staves are paired, low to high, right? So bass clef handles the low register, as we call it, of notes in music, and conversely treble clef, T-R-E-B-L-E, for the high register notes. Each of these clef signs tells us a specific line to look at and what to call that line. In treble clef, we look at where this circles around, and every treble clef does this. The treble clef, I could draw a treble clef as sloppy as I want to draw it. It means the same thing. This curve is not over that line like that one is. But it can't tell me where the same symbol can't tell me multiple alternate designations for the one note it's telling me to define here. So treble clef all over the globe means G, and it's also taught, therefore referred to as the G clef. In addition to that, there's a better handwritten treble clef. For anybody that knows cursive writing, it kind of resembles a cursive, capital G in cursive print. So that's another link as to why it's called G clef. But more important than that reason is that because that's what its job is to tell us what to call the second line here. And that might, when I rewrite it blown up over here, might be clearer. But that's, if you can see my finger pointing to the second line in finger form, doing what this little curly Q here does, encircling around and stopping just below the second line. It's telling us to call that line G. And since it's telling us to do that, and we know therefore the second line on this grid, when we see this on this grid, to call the second line G. So therefore we know what to call everything else. I already said that the orientation of sound and pitches is low to high. So therefore, if I go backwards, then I'm going lower. If the second line is G, then that space just beneath it, the first space, must be one letter back in the alphabet. So that's F. And then if I continue to do that and go to the first line here, I went down another move. So that first line, if this is F because the second line is G, then this first line must be E, and so on and so forth. Okay? That system works with bass clef, those relationships. The only difference is in bass clef, the dots. The dots don't focus on the second line, they focus on the fourth line and tell us to call that line F. And so that's why bass clef is referred to as F clef. These phrases, G clef, F clef, professional musicians don't talk about the trade to each other using those terms. Those are beginning music, beginning theory terms to help the learning student remember and retain not just what the names of the clefs are, but what their function is, because that's all that musical notation is about, is function. Function of what? Sound. That we call musical sound. So bass clef tells us that the fourth line, because the two dots straddle the fourth line, tell us that that's F. And same rule applies. If we know that that's F, then the space below it is one letter back. The next line below that is one letter back yet again, and so on and so forth. And if I change direction, we know the fourth line is F, so the space above that is one letter forward. This line above that is the next letter forward, and so on and so forth. And then we get into this territory of what happens, what's up with this space here. Now, this space here, what happens in here? Okay, so don't take 20 plus years for this to sink in. That's why I'm telling you this now. So I'm going to take this area and blow it up here.